We've got our eyes this morning looking ahead to the federal budget set to be tabled Tuesday. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has emphasized fiscal restraint, but pledged significant investments at the same time, plus targeted measures to help with inflation relief. There will be the already announced $196 billion in healthcare funding for the provinces and territories over the next 10 years, along with clean economy investments to help Canadian businesses stay competitive in the face of the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, which offers billions of dollars in energy incentives. Here to unpack what all of that could look like on Tuesday, former Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Poloz and former Liberal Finance Minister John Manley. Hello to both of you. Thank you very much for making the time. I'm looking forward to looking ahead to the budget with both of you, but before I do that, I wanted to touch on with each of you the uncertainty in the banking sector in the United States and Europe. And Mr. Poloz, I'll start with you. Is Canada insulated from that?
Well, nobody's really insulated from that, but we do have the sort of system that is the least susceptible to that kind of thing. You have to understand that every time interest rates rise, like they've been for the past year, there's always expected to be those attendant effects on bank balance sheets. That's part of the usual transmission mechanism. It causes banks to lend less and to tighten credit. And that's all what we're expecting. But every once in a while, something lumpy happens, which is what happened in the U.S. case, a couple of banks. And that just shows you that the fragilities are there, and if they're not well managed, then it can be a problem. But I'm very confident in Canada, they're extremely well managed.
Mr. Manley, Joe Biden, President Biden, when he was here, said in response to a question on this subject, I think it's going to take a little while for things to calm down on the banking sector, but I don't see anything on the horizon that's about to explode. Do you think he's right?
Well, I think the question was intended to get him to go beyond what his Treasury Secretary had said about protecting deposits. I mean, we all know that overall our banking system is dependent on confidence, and there is no bank in the world that could sustain all of their depositors demanding their money out on one day. And so it's all about exuding that confidence. And I think the reality is, while the U.S. administration doesn't want to encourage banks to be careless or take too much risk by promising to protect all deposits, the reality is it would be very unlikely that to any significant degree they would allow depositors to lose their investments.
In the United States and Europe, Mr. Poloz, what are you watching for over the coming weeks that could tip the scales either way?
Well, really, what we're talking about are liquidity issues that happen when interest rates rise rapidly, unexpectedly. And the central banks are stepping in with extra escape valves or relief valves, if you like, to cover for that. So, for instance, in the United States, you can borrow against government debt at face value, not at the reduced value. I mean, if SVB had been able to do that, they wouldn't have gone down. And so that kind of safety valve makes the system function very, very well in a time of stress. And of course, it's more about people getting used to and managing that rise in risk, not about avoiding it altogether.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I want to turn to the budget, Mr. Manley, and specifically the way in which the federal government has framed what they will be doing in it. And in particular, they've said, and the finance minister herself has said, that they will exercise fiscal restraint. My question to you is, given the scope of the investment in healthcare and what is required to respond to the Inflation Reduction Act in the United States, do you think exercising fiscal restraint will happen or is possible?
Well, it could be that Ms. Freeland has a different concept of restraint than I experienced back in my time as finance minister, because I think that we've seen such an increase in government expenditures, much of it totally warranted, by the way, during the course of the pandemic, that winding that back, while at the same time meeting the commitments on health care, the commitments on you referenced the Inflation Reduction Act, which is really industrial policy, the green economy, the things they want to stimulate. They've made some increases in defense spending, and they promised to try to do dental care, help people manage the inflationary pressures, especially at the low end. That's a lot of spending. So I'll be very interested to see, what's in the restraint category when she presents her budget this week.
You wrote this week, Mr. Poloz, about interest rates starting to do the job of bringing down inflation. Is there a risk of government spending in this budget working to counter that, or are we past that point?
I think we're mostly beyond that point, Vashi, as an issue. There's no question that last year it would have been better, I think, to have a different mix so that with, say, a balanced budget last year and no deficit to put extra stimulus in the economy, that would have meant a lower trajectory for Bank of Canada's interest rates in order to control the same amount of inflation. So that might have been better for everybody, but that missed opportunity is behind us. And now the economy is clearly slowing down. We got all that news on the fourth quarter sooner than most people expected. And all the interest-sensitive parts, such as housing and business investment, have been down 3 quarters in a row already. So in that sense, it feels recessionary already. So in that sort of space, I think that that business about causing inflation is off the table.
Is the risk of a hard landing greater in your view right now, Mr. Poloz?
Yes, the risk of a hard landing has definitely gone up, given that so much has already happened, and we're still waiting for the rest of the effects of interest rate rises to work their way through. But I am heartened by the response of the supply side of the economy. That's really where a soft landing comes from. It's not fancy engineering on the part of a central bank. But if the supply side continues to grow, such as new entrants into the workforce from immigration and from parents who are taking advantage of the new child care policy, those kinds of things are giving us, coming up from below, strengthening the economy. So we can literally have growth and more jobs being created while inflation is decelerating. That combination is unusual, but only happens when the supply side is doing the work. And I'm heartened by what I'm seeing. So there's at least we can get lucky here and have a nice soft landing, but it's going to take some luck at this stage.
Okay, I'm going to leave our discussion there. Thank you very much, both of you, for making the time for it. John Manley and Stephen Poloz.